So Nate, thank you so much for having me over to the farm today. The tour was like exhilarating, actually. I have never seen hugelkultur deployed at such a size. Permaculture classes and stuff, you'll see one or a couple, and of course I've seen lots of books where you get a side view of one so you understand how they're built. But your hugelkultur field is like astonishing, right? And it's really cool right now because some of them are finished and you're already planted into them, whereas other of them are still like these holes and you're building them out. I'll never be able to describe it as well as you will. So just tell us about that hugelkultur deployment.
Yeah, well, it's been a challenge from the beginning. We hope to have everything done by the solstice, and here we are a couple weeks past that, and we're still working on it. So we've had a lot of issues sourcing material to put into our hugels. We have a lot of downed wood. We've been bringing in PG&E for some electricity, so we've done some brush clearing, some tree thinning, stuff like that. So we've had some sources. Just getting it down to the farm and into its proper home has been a big challenge.
Give people an idea of how big it is, right? Because for most people, they'll be like, getting stuff for your hugelkultur is simple. You just grab that. But like, you need a hell of a lot.
Yeah. So we're doing 6,300 square feet is the size of our plot. And, we're doing somewhere around 14 or 15 hugels that average from 25 feet wide all the way up to almost 75 feet wide. So
that's a lot of biomass it takes, because that's all going into the ground.
It is, and we've seen different methods of doing hugelkultur and mounding it up just on your native soil. We decided to actually trench out some holes and excavate 3 feet down and backfill with rotten firewood that we've had around the property and some of these downed trees to get in there. So getting it all down into where it needs to go has been a challenge, but it's almost all there, and it feels good now that it's there. So
yeah, I believe it. And I like that you incorporated those big bags that I saw last time I was here that I posted to my Instagram. What were those? Were those 300 gallons?
200 gallons.
200 gallons.
Yeah.
And so it's one thing to see the big tree sections there, and then you're filling it in with brush and the natural forest. What did you call it? Fluff?
Forest duff, yeah.
Duff. That's
Fluff,
a duff
yeah,
on the ground.
Yeah.
But then, by you pouring all of that, aged and loved, active, living soil on it, you're pretty much inoculating it with all the best parts of your last several seasons, right? I mean, that's the idea.
We're hoping so. Yeah, that's kind of what we're shooting for, is the mound of decaying firewood below, mixed with some of the native soil that's been excavated out. We've ran into tons of rock, so that's been a challenge, is getting some of the big boulders out of there, but we're really excited about repurposing the rock. So as it's challenging, it's also allowing us to do other things around the property with them. But yeah, we've got the native soil back in there, and then the living soil to add some more microbes to our fungus from the rotting firewood. And then we basically, with the forest duff and the potting soil, we top it off with one more layer of natural soil that's been excavated out or collected from the perimeters in different areas. Trying not to take too much from one area to kind of do the wild craft.
Make sure it's all mixed up, or a little bit from here, a little bit from there.
Right. For one reason, for diversity, different areas, but also you don't want to take too much from one area.
Right, and leave and strip it. Right.
Exactly.
On one end you've got the hugelkulturs that you're literally building out today as soon as I get out of your way.
Right.
And you've got the other ones that are already planted.
Mm-hmm.
And any plant, when it gets transplanted, is going to have some amount of shock, and so they're all 10 days in, and they're all kind of rebounding.
Yep.
That must have a whole lot of complex feels for you, right? Because here we are in the first licensed and taxed season in California, and you're trying to do two things. You're both trying, you're deploying this new growing tech. I mean, not that it's new, that it's never existed before, but being introduced to both your farm and cannabis in general.
Right.
but you're also doing this on the highest pressure cannabis season in California ever, where everybody's trying to make money and not lose the farm because everything's kind of a mess right now. There must be challenges in that for you to both be wanting to do this creatively and sustainably and good for the environment, but also know that you can't, if you screw up, man, it's a big deal.
Oh, it's definitely a big deal. I think I explained to you earlier that the place that we're cultivating is typically about half of our yield in years past, and looking down at it right now, it's definitely an unsettling feeling to see how small everything is at this point of the year. But we did try to make up for that a little bit by increasing plant counts. We're going more in the same area, so we're just hoping that it's going to fill in and do what it needs to do. I'm cautiously optimistic, but I think it's going to be okay. The one thing that we were kind of contemplating too was maybe to just have the square footage sit dormant for this year and plant a cover crop on it. But we decided that it was worth the challenge to go ahead and take it on, and so far it's turning out okay. I think it's not going to be a total failure, but it's not going to be the most epic thing I think we've ever seen. And we knew that coming in too. We knew that we'd heard, some trials and tribulations other places, and that inspired us. And we also feel that with hopefully the market being as low as it can get right now, that it's not going to affect us too much, and that the price per unit is lower too. So
at least you're using soil that's already alive, because you use the soil from the 200-pound bag or 200-gallon bags and put them in there. A lot of people who will build a hugelkultur from scratch, they'll use fresh potting soil or something, and then they'll inoculate this and that, and then it really takes a year for it to kind of gel together. But by using the soil that's already activated in it, I would think that as soon as your roots of your newly transplanted plants hit down, it's gonna be like hitting the mother lode, and they're gonna here's a rhizosphere, here's the mycelium, here's everybody, and then I guess that's the I hope, right?
Yeah, totally. Fingers crossed for sure.
Right on. So you said that you increased your plant counts this year to give you more room for error, essentially, and I think you said that you're about 3 times the size of what your medical 215 grow was.
Yeah. I think somewhere around there. We're not all completely planted yet, so it's still up in the air, but somewhere in that neighborhood.
So one of the reasons that I visited you before, and why I'm generally attracted to Moontime Medicinals product is because you use KNF inputs, right? You're not a big fan of bottled stuff, and a lot of what you're putting in starts on the farm, and then you FPJ it, and then you're putting it on your own plants, so everything's happening here. So 2-part question. Number 1, can you tell me a little bit about what you're growing on the property that you're then fermenting, and then also what it's been like to scale up from where you've been the last several years growing for what was essentially a third of what you've got going. That kind of scaling, you're not using small mason jars anymore, right? Things get much bigger at that point.
Yeah.
So kind of color that in for us, would you?
Yeah, so previously using KNF on our veggie garden is essentially the only experience that we've had in it in previous years, and we do 2,000 square feet in the veggie garden. So it's
pretty good training.
Yeah, it is a good training, but when you scale it up to 13.5, it's a challenge. And like you said, starting out with mason jars, we've actually started to employ our pickling crocks that we've used in previous years for kimchis and krauts and things like that. So I've got 3 large crocks that we ferment various things. We do horsetail that's just harvested locally on the property. We'll do pea shoots from our cover crops. That's one thing that we grow purposely for that. We'll do lemon balm to add for terpenes to our plants. We're hoping that the correlation there translates straight to our plants. We'll do, trying to think what else. We'll do some of our cannabis plants. We'll do our males. We'll do.
You've got some comfrey coming along.
Comfrey that comes along for sure. That'll go in there at times. Thistle. Just anything that grows around the property and is very vigorous and doesn't show much susceptibility to anything is what we like to use. Thistle is a really good one in the horsetail. Probably two really good examples of that. But yeah, beyond that, we've got into the LAB and we've got into some of the other stuff. We're just scratching the surface on some of the more complicated, I guess, KNF ferments. We're really excited about getting the fish going. We're going to source some fish from out in Shelter Cove from a commercial fisherman, so that'll be good.
You know, if you're going to do that, you should listen to the interview I did with Chris Trump. He talks about how while you're doing that for your plants, also do some for your own fish sauce for your house.
Yep. And
he's all like, you wouldn't think you want to eat it, but oh my God, it's so good. So
totally.
I might need to get some of that from you too.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about the trade-off of, you know, so you've never been a big bottle guy, and now you're really going whole into producing your own inputs. It takes time, right? It takes the time to get yourself educated, to collect the stuff on the property, to go through and ferment it. You have to wait for it to ferment.
Oh yeah.
Then you're straining, and you know, the bottling part doesn't take much time, and then implementing it. Whereas other people are all like, and they open the bottle and they go to town, right?
Yeah.
What do you see the trade-off being behind the time that it takes to produce the ferments and your yield increases versus saving the time and using a bottle, and you know, because that's a trade-off, and
Yeah.
I know you weigh those in very particular ways.
Yeah, I certainly do. I feel a lot of the nutrients in the bottled ingredients that I use tend to be really expensive. They're high quality nutrients or microbes, and I've just found that with the way the market's going, the way the margins are shrinking, that is the best way that I know of to increase my bottom line, is to take out the things that I can certainly control. And we love microbes. We love to put as many different microbes as we can into the soil. That's been our strategy in years past. But now we're just trying to make them on our own by doing the IMO boxes and you know, doing different things to harness what we have locally, and try and use that is our goal. And I feel like the time that takes is directly equivalent, if not a money savings, to going and buying a bottle of nutrients somewhere. And you know, it goes without saying the environmental impact of the waste and stuff like that. The microplastics are something that kind of get to me a little bit.
Yeah, it totally gets you. And you know, like you know, you're a probiotic grower, right? And so the idea that you're producing your own inputs, I would think offers a lot of self-satisfaction too, right?
For sure.
Like I'm doing it my way, damn it, you
Yep,
know, that kind of
yep,
thing.
Yep.
So the last question I have for you is that, you know, this is a really, you know, this is a once in a lifetime summer this summer, because, you know, people have shifted to the licensed and taxed environment. And, you know, you've been a farmer for years and years, and you got into your cycle of how you spread your time, when you do things, and you get into a, you know, a farmer routine. But then this year, you're having to deal with like all this other random stuff, like find a distributor, develop packaging, develop your new website and logos, find extraction partners, go to county meetings, go to your track and trace class, and work with PG&E to fight to try to get your power here.
Big one.
What's your experience been this year that's unique in trying to do all of that bureaucratic stuff while you're also actually just trying to be a farmer?
Yeah, it's been a big challenge. We've staffed up a little bit from years past, I guess, just recently. Initially, I tried to do it with just me and my lead cultivator, and I found that I was being pulled in way too many different directions, and we needed to bring a couple more guys in. So we brought in a couple new hires. They've been great additions, and they've picked up on a lot of things. They've brought a lot of their own knowledge in, which is good, from the Humboldt State Botany and Forestry Department. So we've had a lot of really good help, and I'm lucky to have these guys on and helping me, and yeah, I feel like that's been the big thing is while I love to be out and getting my hands dirty, I need to free myself up and be able to do some things, and having some people that I can really rely on is big. It's been a big help.
Have you found that even with the really high quality skilled help that you brought on, that a lot of people that I've talked to while I've been out here on this tour, on this trip, people are all kind of saying that everybody's kind of a little behind.
Oh yeah.
Because everyone's distracted by legal and license related stuff that they've got to do. Are you finding that you and your people are kind of behind too, just because it's such an extraordinarily year?
Yeah, without a doubt. And the fact that we also started the Hügelkultur project was
Right.
a big time sap, but it's already showing some benefits, and it's good to see. It's good to get it done and out of the way. Something that we felt really strongly about, as far as the water conservation is the thing that really is kind of stood out with me on this project, and how much that wood underneath those plants is gonna just soak up all of the water. So we're excited, but yeah.
Right on, cool. Well, I'm excited to see it, because I've never seen Hügelkultur deployed at that size at all for anything, even food. But then to see it with my favorite plant on it, it's really exciting. So we'll come back in September when they're all looking beautiful,
Right.
and we'll bring the drone with us,
Yeah.
and we'll get some good above shots. So anyway, thanks for your time.
Yeah, man.
Best of luck, man.
Thank you.
Right on.
Thank you.